Welcome everybody to another special episode of Brainstorm Brewery. You haven't heard me in a while, and it's going to be a while before you hear me again, but it's me, Marcel, MTG on Twitter, the host extraordinaire, the host emeritus, as you may say. But I'm going to talk about other people because I'm really not the deal here. Everyone else is more important to me. But first and foremost, to my right, I have my main man, Mr. Bushard, Ryan Bushard, a.k.a. Cripple Command, a.k.a. the babyface assassin. Watch out for him. He's coming right around your corner to get all your bulk. How you doing, Ryan?
Oh, not too bad. Pleasure to be back.
Well, of course. And then we got my esteemed host, the most qualified person in our podcast to be in the magic sphere or even within Wizards doors. Like, I don't think anyone else could even come through the doors besides this guy here, even though he is known as the Hustler, Corbin the Hustler, Mr. B-Dubs, extraordinaire merfolk aficionado. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, Marcel. It's great to be on this show with you all. And that was a great intro. I'm struggling without the B-Dubs. As listeners of the cast know, I have to go without until October, thanks to our Patreon. So I got to say it's been a struggle, but being on here with all of you all makes it a little bit easier.
Well, see, if you would just buy a deep fryer, you wouldn't have to struggle at all, because I'm actually going to be cooking some boneless wings live on stream right now, and people will see it. You guys won't see it, but they'll see me eating some wings. but we have a guest here, and we got to introduce our guest.
Yeah,
and this guy is the man that will put it down from the car garden, and he is known through the Syracuse area as being very polite, even though he is rude as fuck on Twitter. Mr. Douglas Johnson, how are you doing, sir?
I'll take both of those as compliments.
Yeah, that was very accurate.
I will happily accept both those titles. I prefer to think of myself as sort of like a School of Hard Knocks educator on Twitter, where I'm sort of like this like super strict math teacher, but at the end of the school year, they're like, Mr. Johnson, I like math now. You taught me the ways, and so that's
or they block you, but either way, really.
Hey, just because I'm blocked by Jeff Hoogland and the Manosaurus doesn't mean that those people can't also make bad decisions.
DJ is just a little aggro on Twitter, is all.
What's very surprising is that our next guest has not blocked you.
This next guest, yeah, I'm surprised too.
Wait, we have another guest?
This other guy.
Sorry, DJ, we gotta have a second one today.
Oh,
yeah,
I thought I
I'm
was
sorry. You gotta make room, because this guy, he has a very, 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 very big head, and so when he comes through the door, he is looking like he owns the building, but he actually doesn't.
Well, the spiky hair adds to that, right? It adds to like the head volume.
He is one of the rudest mouths in the Magic community, but he's got love. And
what are you guys talking about?
He's an intelligent individual. Not you. Not Jason E. Alt. I mean, Jason E. Salt. The saltiest motherfucker in the game. He was not an EDH person. He hated EDH, but all of a sudden, he switched it up. And now he's Mr. EDH extraordinaire. Like, extraordinaire. So, like, bow and pay and kiss the ring to the king, Mr. EDH.
Jason EDH Alt.
Did you just introduce me as a guest?
Yeah.
What the hell?
You were not here on number 1. You were here on number 10.
Yep.
And we actually have those all those episodes backlogged onto the website now. For a long time, the first 40 or so episodes were lost in time and space. But
you want to hear some really amateur podcasting?
We have restored
them. Go listen to those episodes.
On
I
Brainstorm.
can't imagine our equipment problems in those first ones. Like, I know they were...
The audio quality maybe leaves a little something to be desired. But hey, it's like the first season of Parks and Rec. It takes a while to get going. But once you get there, it's great. But yeah, little known fact for those who have been listening to this podcast for 5 years and not 8. Jason started out as a guest. We've told the story before, but Jason came on with Ryan around episode 10 or so, and we never got rid of him.
I'm the herpes of MTG podcasting. It was Bruce Lee who said, "I don't fear the man who practiced 1,000 kicks. I fear the man who practiced one kick 1,000 times."
That's a good quote.
And that doesn't apply to podcasting at all. Don't know why I brought that up. I was just thinking about that earlier today because I was watching that Cobra Kai TV show from YouTube.
Wow.
And what were we talking about?
Yeah.
How good is that show?
We're
'Cause,
talking
like,
about
I saw
episode
that little
400,
trailer
Jason.
and it looked amazing.
It's really good. You know what? Turn off this podcast and go find Cobra Kai from YouTube. They brought back William Zabka and they brought back Ralph Macchio. They got everybody. It's amazing.
It is kind of cool.
Just go watch that. It's nobody kicks each other in the head on this show. There's a lot of head kicking on that. So if you like people getting kicked in the head, turn off this episode right now.
All right, everybody. Let's talk about why we're all here. It's episode 400. We've been doing this forever. You've enjoyed a little bit of a walk down memory lane with us. And there's something that we all recognized when we were talking about what do we do for episode 400? How do we make an episode that is worthy of marking a milestone, right? That 400, that means what? Is that 8 years? So that's crazy. You know, we're giving away the dual lands on the social media. We got our 10 winners for that. We're doing all of this stuff. We're trying to reach out to more. But we realize that all of these things we're talking about that we're going into and we're doing more of, none of those happen if we haven't had people with us here from the very beginning. So we have Marcel and Ryan on this week. And what we are going to do is we asked listeners to send this in a while back. And now we are going to highlight some of our longest listeners by hearing their story and then going back and maybe finding some fun clips to listen to from the episodes that they first came in on. So a lot of these go back pretty far. We weren't sure if we had any listeners who go back all the way, but we have people who have been here since episode 1 somehow. So that's what we're going to do tonight with Ryan.
If you're new, then you can just sort of just widen your eyes or just like put your hands in your head and just be like, Jesus, why is this still a thing? So you can just do the compare and contrast. If you're like, I just showed up because I'm new and I wanted a dual land, but I didn't get one, and now I feel trapped here, then you can just sort of experience that old podcasting vicariously.
That's right. It's vintage.
The reason why we continued on was because of DJ.
Yeah, that's
Aw, thank you.
Yeah, DJ. When Ryan and Marcel needed to step away, DJ came in, and that's how this cast kept going. So, all right, everybody, let's have a lot of fun tonight. Let's start with these clips. All right, so going back as far as we found, we have a couple listeners who sent in emails from the early days here. So the first one is Brian. You asked for anyone who'd been listening since 2013 to write in. I thought I had sent an email early in your run, but this is the earliest email interaction I found. Since then, I moved to New Jersey, drove Ryan, Jason, Marcel, Slick, and the other Jason to and from a GP. Still listen every week. Thank you for that.
That was GP New Jersey in 2007? 6?
No,
14?
15. I think it was 15.
2015?
I don't know.
It was the
2015.
year the monocolor commander decks came out. What year was that?
Contagion Priest. When Contagion
It was
Priest came out.
15.
Contagion
Yeah,
Priest.
Yeah. Let me finish.
It was Ray
Contagion
Future.
Priest.
It was Ray the Rookie, whatever year that was.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't recall which year that was. Maybe
But yeah, like
2016?
I absolutely
2015?
remember that was GP New Jersey.
Yeah, that's great.
Or was it called GP New York, but it was in Edison?
Sure.
Yes, because it was the Brainstorm or no, it was Jersey because it was the Brainstorm one. New York was the Shadows of Innistrad one.
Oh, you're right. It was Jersey. It definitely was Jersey.
Jersey was Jersey. It was the Brainstorm one.
That's a
But
big one.
it was in Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
Either way. Yeah, DJ met us there.
That's great.
I think
Yeah,
so.
Brian-
Because we played EDH and then Zach Hill came over. He's like, "What the hell format are you guys playing?" I thought that was so funny.
That is good.
A game warning, or I got a warning of some type. I don't know exactly what the fuck I got.
During
but I
the
got
GP?
Because there's some dude that was at that thing. We were walking by and he was puking his brains out at the table playing there. So I was like, "Oh, this is video."
Oh my gosh.
Next thing I know, I get approached by a couple judges. Like, "Oh yeah,
I remember that you weren't even
Come on.
playing the event.
Come on.
None of us played because we only went for like 2 hours on Saturday and we got the hell out of there because how busy it was.
They gave Marcel a hard time. Like, what's your DCI number?
Yeah,
Like, I'm not
okay,
telling you that. I'm not
sure.
playing this event.
Yep. Well, Brian says, thank you for the years of entertainment. Best. Signed, Brian. The guy DJ almost doxed that one time. Well, that describes a lot of people, honestly.
Yeah, you're going to have to be more specific, Brian.
Yeah. Around the same time, though, Max Margolis started listening. Max says, I decided to raise my support recently since I love the podcast. I've been following you all for years. I met Jason for the first time ever at GenCon back when there was a Gathering Magic meetup. Can't wait for us all to play Magic again after the pandemic. Max started listening around the same time, episode 63, 64. So I have
What
brought
year
back,
was that? Was that like 2012?
This was 2013. This is late 2013
Okay,
here.
yeah.
And this is one of the most infamous clips ever created by Brainstorm Brewery.
Yeah, I don't think Timmy's read Star City Premium. I think they read
I think Timmy reads the mothership.
I think Timmy. I'm not talking about Timmy like the non-competitive player. I'm talking about the guy who like wants the edge at all these tournaments.
I'm talking about a little guy named Tim that comes to my shop.
Oh, he's a total spot. Thanks, Tim.
No, I'm not. Like I said, I'm not talking about like the casual crowd of Magic. They read the mothership. I'm talking about the players who, go to their FNMs. The typical Star City person who shows up to like Star City Open.
Spikes.
What's that?
You're talking about Spikes.
No, Spikes are more like tournament players. Like Timmy, like the FNM Grinders.
What FNM Grinder is building Young Pyromancer Storm for the
FNM Grinder, that's not a fucking thing.
It really is,
Just
actually.
two words and put them together. Two disparate words.
No, it really is.
Grinding the FNM circuit. 4 planeswalker points at a time. Trying to get to 3 buys.
Nobody who is not a Spike plays Storm in a tournament.
Yes, they do. Okay, whatever.
FNM Grinders, baby.
Oh boy. It takes me back.
The funniest part about that entire thing is, like, I was listening to that episode as, like, a listener, and I was like, Ryan's right, because I am that person.
Oh my gosh.
No, it really is a thing, unfortunately. You guys laugh about it every time you play that clip, which also has been on like episode 100, 200,
It's
and now
a great
400.
clip.
It's a great clip.
It's a great clip because you guys laugh at me like this person doesn't exist.
I'm
But
laughing right now.
Doesn't fit.
The
I just
FNM
said he's that person, and I'm still laughing.
Okay, what's the card? What was the card you were talking about in that clip? Because I guarantee you that card was not played.
Pyromancer's Ascension.
What?
Pyromancer's Ascension.
It was Pyromancer's Ascension.
This clip was so long ago, Finkel had just played Pyromancer's Ascension
all right,
in a
so
tournament.
it was Pyromancer Ascension, and you think that Timmy's are playing Storm at FNM? Yeah,
It wasn't Storm at the time.
clip never gets
They are.
old.
It was not a Storm.
That deck, like that metagame proved you all wrong like 2 months later because there was a ton of that
didn't it,
dumbass
Ryan?
Pyromancer Storm deck.
Ryan,
around.
it might have proved me wrong about whether or not Pyromancer Ascension Storm was good or not. It did not prove us wrong about FNM Grinders, buddy.
And look, I just don't understand how you don't think this is a thing. People go to FNM, they use their credit they won at the last FNM to win more, and they just keep doing it, and then they use that
They're
money to
not
play
Timmy's.
But they're not actual tournament players. They only play at FNM. These guys might go to a GP once or
man.
twice a year. With SC.
7 years
They're
later,
not-
same
I was
argument,
literally
everybody.
that person for, like, 3 years.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Mostly,
Sure
like,
thing,
and one of the biggest parts of it was because, like, I didn't have the financial power to, like, go to those tournaments, but I had the financial power to, like, go to an FNM every week.
Right.
and grind it.
But Timmy's are like a well-defined psychographic by Mark Rosewater that do not include people who play Storm at FNM. That was the debate here. Not whether or not people like to win FNM, but whether you would describe those peoples as fitting the psychographic as defined by Mark Rosewater as a Spike or a Timmy. And Timmy is the big green dirtle guy at the kitchen table,
It's
not the
Jamie
Storm
Wakefield.
player at FNM.
But see, that's the thing. You were talking. That's the problem with vocabulary words. He was referring to Timmy, and in Ryan's mind, he hit Timmy on the nose. And Jason understood Timmy from Mark Rosewater's Timmy.
Right.
We were both right at the same time.
I guess, because I then said, hey, isn't this how Mark Rosewater describes a Spike? And Ryan said, no. But regardless, it's water under the bridge 8 years later. On to the next emo in the next clip. All right, next up, we're going back even further. Episode 50 from Ben Otteson. He says, hello, Brew Crew. Longtime listener, first-time emailer. I've been a listener since 2012, episode 50 or so. I started when Shut Up Corbin was talked about being on t-shirts. Episode 100 came a long time after I started. I would say that I've listened to every episode since then. Brainstorm Brewery has been a big inspiration for me. Since then, I have confidently opened an LGS to use the knowledge in my community. I now sell Magic and Pokemon instant collections all the time. I've never said Targamoif, correct? And I love Marcel's giant chain around his neck in Portland. Thank you guys. For every week, you reach more people than you realize. Ben, that was a truly nice email. Thank you for listening.
Was Portland GP Garden Time?
Yes, it was, baby.
Ooh.
I recall Portland. I believe that.
I was not there for that, and I'm so sorry I missed it.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's listen to the clip from episode 50.
Sure. Okay. So, yeah, like a 5's like a Baneslayer, and you're like, well, I guess I'm playing white.
Yeah. Are we going to 0 or is it 1 through 5?
No, it's 1 through 5. So I don't know where 0 came from.
Except for time reversal, which was actually a 0.
That's valid.
Okay. There are no time reversals in this set in terms of finance because nothing is less than bulk. So if a 1 is a bulk rare, there's no 0. I think what people need to remember is Aetherling costs 7 mana to play. And you're going to say, hey, this costs 4 colors and 2 blue. Bullshit. You're not going to run this out without a blue untapped. If
Sure
he's
you
your
will.
finisher.
So, no.
If he's
There
your
will
finisher,
be plenty of people that will do it.
sure, bad people at the pre-release. But I mean, in all practicality, if you were going to be a control deck and you're running this guy as a finisher, which seems the best role for him,
No.
you're going to run him at 7 mana, so you, the bare minimum, have 1 exile activation to save him.
I mean,
So
personally, I don't even think this card's going to be played. I think it's just
I think
I
everyone's
disagree.
really excited. I don't know if this is Thornling, which saw a lot of play and was very good, or if it's Windreaver, which did not see a lot of play and was very bad.
all right. So it's $6 pre-order.
I think that'll go down.
Me too. So
I
call.
don't think so.
So Marcel, you want to? I know you want to change the color text on Skylasher. So why don't you read it to us?
Skylasher is saying "fu" to the Geese of Saint Traft and other cards.
The Geest of Saint Traft. I think the beginning of that was us failing at set reviews. You know, we've sort of 8 years in found our way on set reviews, but back then we were trying to do 1 through 5 rating systems. We apparently all missed.
We gave them letter grades at one point.
We don't
That
know
was
how.
that clip was also you calling like the best control finisher in a year and a half unplayable.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, that sounded like Jason calling the correct end of Aetherling, and you were just completely wrong.
It does seem that I might have been incorrect on Aetherling.
Well, you weren't wrong about its price.
No, I was not. It was a bulk rare.
Because it was like a 1 or 2 of max, so it never really...
I mean, Ryan said $6 is fine.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I missed on the playability, but won on the price there. But regardless, it's safe to say we've come a long way since set reviews.
Have we?
Now, how about this one?
Have we gotten better at evaluating cards?
We've
I
gotten
maintain that we
no,
have
we've
not.
gotten
little.
better, just like Wizards has gotten better at card design.
Yeah.
Ooh, got 'em.
We're making new mistakes all the time. So I have to say, Ben, you started listening when Shut Up Corbin t-shirts were a thing. And if my card evaluation skills continue to be as potent as they were back then, I understand. Might have to bring those t-shirts back if I miss that hard again. Aetherling was definitely played, and so was Pyromancer Ascension. So I got to say that 8 years ago maybe was not my peak Magic competitiveness time.
And that's when you were brewing all the time. You're like, hey, I got mono white stacks.
I
Can
literally
we not
only
waste
played
11
Magic.
minutes every episode.
I'd played Magic for 2 years at that point, though. Maybe 3.
That's
Like I
crazy
was
to
not.
me.
I was not.
He was a
pro.
Pokemon pro that like upgraded.
Yeah, like I didn't start playing. I wasn't introduced to Magic until 2008, I think. So
My
I guess I had
goodness.
technically I had known about Magic for 4 years, but I'd only played competitively for even started to, and I'm saying like drafted my FNM for maybe 2 years at that point. So yeah, safe to say I had some learning to do.
But I think Aetherling for MTG Finance was a big lesson because it taught everyone that this card could be seen widely played in control decks as a 2 of, 1 or 2 of, possibly 3, and the card will do nothing financially. And we've seen this consistently over the years, basically since Aetherling, maybe a little bit before Aetherling, but I know Aetherling to me was the point when I realized these cards can be these cards could be tournament viable, financially irrelevant. And Supreme Verdict was kind of the same way while it was in Standard. It never did anything, but it was played in these decks.
That I think was less to do with playability and more to do with the overprinting that started during.
And that's what we're talking about, though, right? The idea that playability is not a 1-to-1 correlation with price. despite a lot of
Right.
people thinking that it is.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this,
RTR forward was definitely a different era in Magic finance.
Yeah. Like it started the era of people just being like, "This card's great, it's gonna go up," and you could be like, "Yes, the card's great." No, it won't.
yeah, exactly. All right, on to the next one then.
And then there are the cards where you're not sure if they fit into the metagame, though they are good cards. Savage Summoning is one of those cards.
Except it's not a good card.
It is a good card, but sure.
It's a good card in the right meta. If we were in a
Exactly.
It's the meta that has never existed in Magic because they've printed cards like it plenty of times before.
Really? That card, that you don't think there's any meta where Savage Summoning wouldn't have been good? Like Psychotog days? Because
No, I'm
that
telling
card
you
would have
that-
single-handedly tore that deck apart.
They have printed a number of effects similar to that, and never once has it been $15. No card similar to Savage Summon, which they've printed several times.
Correct. However, they've never had the coverage in media that they have on Magic like this before either, and you wouldn't have seen
I
a card
can't
like
believe
Frost
we're
Reckoner hit as
talking
much
about
as it
this
did.
instead of fucking podcasting.
We are
We should-
podcasting.
We should argue about whether we're podcasting or not. That's a better way to spend our
Yeah.
time.
We should argue about this while we're podcasting, because this is a relevant point.
yeah, because
And-
all right, because you
I
actually.
don't know why you think everything in finance is black and white.
Yeah, hold on. We are actually podcasting. This is the start. You guys were arguing beforehand. If you guys want to catch the other stuff that they were talking about before that, you could check out the after hours.
Wow. That was quite the clip right there. What I like, I noticed a couple things that stand out to me from that before we talk about the actual discussion. I got to say, shout out to the cough from whichever one of you did that.
That was
There's
just
a very
me right
loud
now.
cough in that clip.
That was just me
Clip.
right now. That was not part of the clip.
That really true?
Yes.
Owned.
Ruined the rolling part because that would have got cut out anyway.
I thought it was in the clip and we couldn't edit it out. I was like, we probably only had one recording back then and there wasn't a way to edit it out. He's just DJ coughing over the clip. That was, well, I just wanted to point out the cough. Anyways, Savage Summoning argument. I gotta say though, regardless of anything else, it would appear that it is around episode 80 that I learned how to play Magic because that card was not played.
No, but you were supposed to play it with your Aetherling, Corbin. That was what everyone got wrong.
I mean, look, it did what it did. It just, it's interesting in retrospect though, because Ryan, I'll say this, he had the right idea back then. He just had the wrong card because the newest version of Savage Summoning was Veil of Summer. And Veil of Summer is banned in standard.
Veil of Summer says draw a card.
I know though, but that's the line because Savage Summoning was
counter.
Yeah, it's the same effect, right? It's the same protect your creature spell effect.
Draw a card is
that's why that's the line. Yeah.
The point for me with Savage Summoning was less about the card and more about the concept of when you go to an event for a weekend and suddenly the card is the hot new tech because, say Control. My theory at that point was Control was going to take over the metagame and the only way to get around was Control to actually be a card like Savage Summoning.
Yeah.
Obviously that never happened, so the card never became worth anything. But we've definitely seen cards over the years where it might not be worth anything before that weekend or even a week after that weekend. But for that one weekend, you'll see cards just hit $10 in the room because
one of the best
everyone wants.
One of the best examples is something like Treefolk Harbinger at PT Amsterdam back in the day. It was an extended event where at some point late people realized that Doran decks were good, and there was a run on the uncommon Treefolk Harbinger from Lorwyn, and they were $10 on site. The concept was solid. The specific card was not. So that was when Bryce Hansen started listening. Bryce says, I'm the guy with the keyboard cage fighter hoodie with Marcel. Been listening since at least 2014 and probably earlier, a bit after Jason joined, but way before episode 100. Also, I'm 18 now. That's being May 15th, 2020. Bryce was 18. Do the math on how old I was when I started listening.
Yeah, I remember Bryce. He sent you something. I think he made some like altered cards, I believe, and sent. Yeah, like Bryce was really cool, and then quit following me, so I don't know what's up with him.
Well, gosh,
somebody's
do you all
younger,
think that we'd be
7 years younger than me?
Yeah,
I didn't think there were people 7 years younger.
He was listening to the podcast when he was like 11.
That's not good parenting.
Somebody messed up. I don't know if it was us or
That's not
his
good
parents.
parenting.
Yeah, I agree.
Just think of how profoundly we've ruined him as a person.
Yeah, just formulative years. Like,
Oh man.
My cousin, look, my cousin came to Oakland when he was like about 14, 15,
Mm-hmm.
and we turned him out. Ruined his life, me and my brother.
Gosh, yeah.
But yes, there's a thing about impressionable youth. No, he's much better now. Believe me, he got better. But definitely, yes.
Oh man.
Not impressionate the youth, please.
All right. Next up is Ty Gerch. Ty says, "Hey, old guys, and new, young, naive soul DJ. The most recent episode prompted this outreach of excitement. I've been listening since early 2014 and a patron since, I believe, 2015-ish. So, Ty, thank you so much for that. That's an incredible amount of support.
Also, we're
waiting for
sorry.
his loot crate.
Yeah.
I'm sorry you never got your loot crate, bro.
I've enjoyed your banter recently and very much enjoy Ryan and Marcel guest appearances. The YouTube channel has been a nice addition, in my opinion. Keep up the good work."
So speaking of one more thing, I know we're kind of running out of time here, but I learned this, and I feel like most people would probably want to know this. I learned a thing about a certain card in Standard this week, and that card is called Blood Scrivener. Tell me this: how many cards do you draw with Blood Scrivener if you don't have any cards in your hand?
I don't know. I don't know what Blood Scrivener does.
You don't draw any cards. I think it says you reveal the top card and you put it into your hand.
No. Blood Scrivener says if you would draw a card when you have no cards in hand, instead draw 2 cards.
Right.
Okay, so if you have no cards in hand and you go to your draw step with a Blood Scrivener play, how many cards are you going to draw on that turn?
2.
The answer is 3.
Why?
Because you go to your draw step, like it replaces your draw step with the draw 2, okay? And then you go to draw the first card of those 2 cards, and it replaces it again. It is like, that is the actual ruling on the card, and nobody knows that.
You know what's interesting? No one knows that because no one's ever fucking played a Blood Scrivener.
Well, do people know it draws you 3 cards?
It does not draw you 3 cards.
There's no way it draws you 3 cards.
Okay.
No, it
Because-
doesn't. I played this on Moto. I played with the card unlimited.
Yeah,
and
because
I've had
you can't double trigger it. Like there's no
Oh,
way.
let's go to Twitter. Let's ask Art Halavey. Write the F now. So,
Yeah.
for those of you, if you wondered why on Tuesday I was asking Art Halavey at 2 in the hey, how many cards do you draw
guys.
in Blood Scrivener? This is why.
Guys, what if I gave you a Gatherer ruling?
No, you don't need to gather a ruling. I was wrong.
My favorite part is, like, if you continue that chain of logic, Corbin, the card decks
I know.
you.
No, listen.
The card literally would chain itself infinitely and deck you.
When I said episode
No,
80
we're having fun. We're having fun.
when I said episode 80 was when I learned how magic cards work, I was wrong because this is episode 85 and I did not. In my defense, I had been told that by a judge. Yeah, so it turns out at episode 85, maybe I knew magic a little bit better, but I did not know that I should fact check things before I repeat them on the podcast, even if they were told to me by a judge. So lesson learned on that one.
Yeah, but it was an Oklahoma judge, so
You know.
you
All right.
subtract a 1 from whatever
Yeah.
L they are.
Yeah,
so if
pretty
you're like,
much.
I'm an L2. They were an everywhere else L1. And Oklahoma L1 is a rules advisor.
Yeah, I
was
believe
gonna
it.
say it's like how the U.S. has different school systems per state. They have different judge requirements per state.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oklahoma,
All right,
they're
next-
like, here, fill in this fill in this box of crayons with.
Next up
We're
is
47th in education. It's a thing.
I think we're up to like 42nd.
Yeehaw!
You did it. You passed Mississippi and Louisiana.
Yeah. All right. Next email comes to us from Connor Buckley. Connor says, I'm not sure if I started listening to the show when the original Theros of Born of the Gods came out, but I know it was around that time, my sophomore year of high school. Huge fan of the show and don't plan to stop anytime soon. Connor, thank you for listening for so long. And let's
We don't plan to
play-
stop anytime soon either, and that's
scary.
That's a problem.
But let's go ahead and play a clip here from around that time.
So welcome everyone to another D-Dub special of Corbin going to the toilet while he was podcasting. That's horrible control.
That's not what's happening.
Yeah, normally Corbin shits directly into the mic.
He puts his foot in his mouth and he shits on the mic. All because
Okay,
he went
for
to
the
D-Dub.
record, now that you reminded me about that, I always want to say, I talked to a judge about that stupid, whatever that dumbass card is, Blood Scrivener. I talked to a judge about that before I brought it on the podcast, and I was not the only one confused.
Yeah, but
Okay.
he's like
A
a
judge,
level
like-
1 judge in Oklahoma, which is like a rules advisor anywhere else.
I mean, that's actually true, I guess, because that's what happened.
Holy shit!
There you
7
go.
years later.
I made the exact same joke 6 years ago.
Jason tries to tell me he's not predictable.
Oh my god.
Oh shit!
I thought you would like that one.
The same exact.
God, I had no idea. I did not remember saying that. Oh shit!
I thought you might enjoy that one.
Oh goodness!
Oh my gosh. All right, next email comes from Lane Frost. Lane says, you guys said nobody still listened from 6 to 8 years ago, so I felt like I had to email in. I haven't quite been here since episode 1, but I arrived sometime between 50 and 100 looking through the archives. I'm sure I was here for 88 when Ray Perez was still a future pro. Fun fact, I was probably
And
your
not a
youngest
current
listener
pro.
at the time, 13 years old or so. You know what, Lane? You weren't. Because we had an 11-year-old listening to the podcast. Oh, man. Lane says, I can remember listening to BSB, Heavy Meta, and the A-Team. while at
Mommy,
school,
mommy,
hoping
what
I-
does suck my farts mean?
This dude was he was 11 years old listening
He was-
to
yeah.
Heavy Meta
Yeah.
and the
Well,
A-Team.
13 years old for Lane here listening to Heavy Meta and A-Team says he was at school hoping I wouldn't get caught listening to all the, quote, adult language between the three. Anyways, just figured I had to drop a line and let you know I've been here this long and plan on listening as long as you guys all around. The other 2 casts fell through, so I need you to stick around for my magic comedy fix. Anyways, thanks for the years, and here's to however many more. Keep it up. Lane, thank you so much for listening for that long. I hope we didn't get you in trouble in school. These
This
emails...
dude was listening to Heavy Metal talk about how he was hung like a light switch since he was hung like a light switch.
This is why we started putting in the beer cracks for the cursing. Apparently we have evidence that we have children listening literally in school to this podcast.
I'm
Wow.
so sorry. I am so sorry. Please forgive me.
Lane, thank you. Let's play the clip from around then. Let's see what we got.
So who's next on this?
I will go because I'm reversing myself and people like when I do that. Okay, this isn't a full reversal. This is a card that I was sort of
Oh,
like,
it's a crappy ass card. Why?
what? Huh? Fine, I'll pick a different card. The different card is a Farah. So
Yes, I agree.
Shut up, Ray. I'm talking. So this is a card that I was sort of like,
Did you pronounce that correctly?
Yeah, I'm almost positive. I see what you're doing to me, and I did it to you already, so it's less funny.
Oh, it's more funny.
Please.
More
Definitely
funny.
more funny.
This is what I do to people. This doesn't feel good at all. I've learned a lesson today.
I don't think you have.
I sure as shit haven't.
Spoilers, he did not learn a lesson that day.
I learned nothing.
Yeah, let's keep going.
I don't know, though. The question is it Johnny Goldman, which has already shown a little upward movement in the past week at, about $7? Is that a better pickup than, I'm not
Is that
sure.
how you make your point? You're like, this card's so good, I'm going to slam my fucking spoon in my ice cream bowl. Boom! A Jonah Goldman! Suck it!
It wasn't me, and I was trying to I don't know what
Jason's
was.
just not to make fun of other people besides Corbin.
I don't know which one of you it was, but
It's a magic conspiracy.
I heard it. I tried to ignore it. I knew you were just trying to make fun of me. Anyways, Johnny and Soren, pick them both up. I'm not eating my ice cream. I did that before the cast started, out of respect to our listeners.
Who do you all think was responsible for that? Okay. Moving on to the next email. This one comes to us from Paul Johnson. Paul says, 8-year listener, I've been listening for that long. Here's a clip.
Never tried to recreate that shit.
I'm gonna go make some ice cream.
Oh,
You're gonna
we've
make
done
ice
it before.
We don't have time for that shit. For you to, like, get rock salt and fucking
Start the cast. I'm, doing that.
cream and shit.
I'm muting myself and getting ice cream. Start the cast.
You should make ice cream.
Oh, the noise is gone. Amazing.
I know it got real quiet when Fucko muted himself.
I'm not even muted, you douchebags.
Yeah.
One of you fuckos then. It might have been Ryan.
It was probably me.
It's
There's
always
there's a noticeable increase in quality whenever Ryan meets himself.
every week you guys blame me for shit, and it's always Ryan.
One final note, everyone. We've decided that the 2 winners of the Photoshop contest, who submitted their entries a very long time ago, are each going to win a Brainstorm Brewery playmat. So we're going to get those addresses, and we're going to send those playmats out to our winners. We take care of our contest winners, so next time we do one, make sure you enter, because there are real prizes involved.
Yeah, so people send in stuff for the set review, so we'll get you some tokens out to you guys that sent that in. So thank you for doing that. I've been
Hey, they got a
tardy on that.
playmat. You're going to send me tokens? That's bullshit. Sorry, that's just what they're going to say.
I could care less.
That Chun-Li, it's hard to top, you know.
Yeah, that was actual work. Like, I mean, I appreciate you doing some data entry, and that sounds so horrible, Jason. You're belittling their work.
Cut all that out. Jason's just being a dick.
I know, I fall for the dick trap. It says, do not step here, pile of dildo.
Dick trap, that sounds...
Marcel just fell for the dick trap. That's going on Twitter.
You fall into, you have a 90%
What was the exact
chance
quote?
to
Did you say I fell into the dick trap, or I fell for the dick trap?
I think I fell into
Face
the
first, or...
I would rather go on the side, so that way I have least chance of entry. If anything's gonna go in my hole, it'll be my ear hole.
Least armpit.
Okay, tweeted.
Wow. Thank you for that, Marcel.
That was timely because they're like, yeah, we give away real prizes on this podcast. We just gave away like 5K in duels.
Yeah, we've upped the contest game a little bit.
Yeah,
here.
and you know what? We shouldn't have.
Yeah.
We shouldn't have.
Okay,
shouldn't
real
have done
talk. We had 32,000 entries into that contest.
What? Goodness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Each person
5K
can enter 5
duels.
times.
Yeah, it was 6 times, so every person could enter 6 times. But 32,000, but not everyone did enter 6 times, I checked.
Yeah, I only entered 4 times. I really wanted to win it, so you guys would just give me a bunch of shit on the podcast and let somebody else have it.
Yeah, that is exactly what would have happened there. Yeah, that was a great promotion for us. I think that it went pretty well. So that's that's possible thanks to our sponsorship with Channel Fireball. We were able to use some of our credit to get cards to give away from our own from our own side of things. So that was great. We wanted to make sure that no patron money was used for the giveaways like that, because we want all the patron money to go back into the Patreon and not into advertising. So that's we're going to do more advertising, but if you decide to become a patron in this cast, it won't be coming from that. All of that's going back into the podcast. So here we go. We've got just a couple left. This one comes to us from Ross McGee. Ross McGee says, "Hey, Brew Crew, in a recent episode you asked longtime listeners to write in. I've been listening to the podcast since about episode 101. The internet tells me that was published in June 2014, so it's been about 6 years. I've missed less episodes in that time period than Corbin." There you go.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, so...
And we're probably going to try to read an email from you guys as well. So if you have a topic that relates to MTG Finance, no matter how basic, go ahead and write that into brainstormbrew@gmail.com. We'll have that email address in the show notes, and we will work on getting that question answered for you.
Yeah, because one thing I'm sure of is if somebody out there has a question about it, there are no dumb questions, and you're probably not the only one who wonders. So a lot of times, like Marcel said, we've been doing this for a while. We deal with this stuff every day. It can sometimes, we don't want to just take stuff for granted that maybe we shouldn't. So that's what we need you guys to keep the feedback coming and tell us what you want to know about.
We don't know what you don't know.
And even if you do think that you know, there may be some things that you didn't know or you didn't know the best practices of. So, this is going to open up the forum and, pay attention. Or if you just think you're too good for this, you could turn out, right about now.
You don't know what you don't know.
But you think you know if you knew that you knew.
There are known knowns and there are unknown knowns. And there are known unknowns and unknown unknowns.
All right, there you go. That was episode 101. So for those who don't know, that was episode 101. We talked about Adam Saborski earlier on this cast. He was the one who suggested we do Finance 101. We started with episode 101. And you'll see kind of the, while that segment itself has taken a hiatus, I suppose we do one every now and then. But we kind of, breaking bulk, sudden substitution, these things kind of fill those roles. But we've been experimenting for a long time, and we're gonna keep it up. I mean, Ryan, Marcel, you were around for Finance 101. I don't even know how we filled a podcast back in the day. Now we have all these segments. We have these things we hit every week. It kind of gives the show some structure, which I think is good for everybody. But back in the day, the four of us would just go 2-3 hours of just all over the place.
Yeah, but we didn't have a person saying, all right, let's stop and talk about this next thing. Like, we spent 45 minutes on some really relevant subjects sometimes.
Imagine the podcast before we discovered that we could do after hours, basically. Because now the after hours are great. They're a Patreon perk. People love them. And we find something to do with all that stuff. But back then it was like, yeah, do we keep this in the episode? Why'd we record it if not? And then you'd have 2-hour episodes or hours after hours. Good stuff.
Lost that one episode. Nobody ever wanted to ever not use anything.
That's correct.
Oh, that was so brutal.
That happens to everybody, right?
So for people that don't know, like there was just like an episode where like we're like, let's just do it. Marcel's got us, and then Marcel's like, something fucked up. None of it recorded.
I just remember,
and that was why. After that, we all did a test recording, and we all recorded ourselves separately, plus a backup.
Yep.
In case somebody's individual recording failed.
I think we lost 2 episodes.
Oh boy!
Did we lose?
Every time it's like we lost a whole episode. We're like, okay, we're gonna re-record this episode, but we're not gonna record it right now. We're all gonna go to bed sad, and then we're gonna wake up in the morning and reconvene tomorrow and try to recapture this magic.
And now, go ahead, Ryan.
Those have to be like our worst 2 episodes out there in history too, because there was no emotion once you had already recorded.
It was probably pretty rough. I have to say, I just remember Marcel going, "Guys, we have a problem." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "The episode's gone." Are you kidding?
What do you mean it's gone?
Are you serious? He's like,
I checked and we recorded for an hour and it only recorded 3 minutes.
Yeah, it's just like, just literal head drops on desk, just theatrical sigh. It's the worst thing you could ever feel.
For every time in the future when he would say something like, "Oh, I don't know," and everyone's holding their butt, going, "Oh no, we lost another one."
Yeah, you learn your lesson. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, I ran out of space on my hard drive while we were recording, and it corrupted my video file. But we had a backup.
We had the backup.
So yeah. All right, there you go. So this has been a lot of fun. We have one final email here. Save the longest one for last. This is from Mara. Hey, Brew Crew, longtime listener, first time emailer, recent patron. I've been listening to the podcast since the early days. I think I was introduced to it through an interview Marcel did at some Magic event. I've been around Hooray Future Pro, multiple episode 99s, the Born of the Gods set review, famous for Chromanticore, # OK Preps, Marcel Mint, the infamous Puka Trade interview, the very belated episode 200, Bulk to Binder, I actually don't even remember that one, and so many other in-jokes and references lost to the sands of time. It's hard to believe I've been listening to the main host, Jason, Corbin, Marcel, Ryan, and guest DJ for nearly 500 episodes now. Thank you for all the knowledge and advice you guys have passed on through the years. I especially appreciate all the times you've made me laugh. Here's to another 500 episodes. Sincerely, Mara. And then we got a reply to that email the next day that said, LOL, why did I think episode 500 was the next milestone? Mara, thank you for listening for 400 episodes.
That's not on you.
It's so funny. Yeah. I just tweeted something and Mara just liked it like this second. Nice. As soon as you said her name, that's really funny.
That's great.
That's a super fan right there. She's like,
love it.
You read my email, I'm going to retweet all your shit about how a guy from Mythbusters just died. So way to be a Johnny on the spot there, Mara.
Well, thank you so much for listening. And the thing is, the reason they say multiple episode 99s is that there was some delay on the first episode 100, maybe episode 200 too. I don't remember. So when we say this is episode 400, we sort of mean that in an ephemeral, what's an episode anyway sort of sense, because for all we know, it's episode 395 or 405, because we did 99.5, 99.9, 99.99.
Yeah, there was a couple extras. I believe Bulk to Binder was also the current, like you guys are doing it now again, but it's like what cards are in people's bulk that you should be pulling out. And
is it Breaking Bulk?
Breaking Bulk. That was the original.
Oh, wow. That's neat.
You didn't even know.
I know, right? So, yeah.
Full circle on one of our, our very original, concepts that we had.
That is fantastic. She got you.
Yeah, and we went and did some of the work here, and I think based on sort of what we concluded, that means probably around episode 20. So that's crazy. Thank you. I think the interview that Marcel did has to be referring to GenCon when Marcel and I decided we were going to be real professionals, and we started interviewing Magic personalities at GenCon back when GenCon was the place to be for Magic. That was a fun event, right?
That was fantastic. But that's when you took off and I went the other direction.
Well, we got to do an interview with Aaron Forsyth, which was really cool. And Aaron Forsyth, we got to ask the question. It's so funny now because this is
it was so much fun. Marcel referred to him as Aaron afterward.
So 7 or 8 years later, we have the same question we had back then. Are fetch lands being reprinted? Or it was Shocklands back then, wasn't it? Yeah, it was Shocklands. It was, are we going to get Shocklands in Return to Ravnica? And Forsyth said, if you look, the clues are there or something. And it was just this incredibly cryptic thing that people talked about for a while. So so we've been trying for a long time to I guess ask big questions of the big names, but that was fun. I remember Marcel and I got to meet a lot of people. We interviewed Marshall Sutcliffe, we interviewed Aaron Forsyth, we interviewed Sheldon Minery. We did a lot of cool stuff that weekend. Amara, thank you for being along for all of that. We really do truly appreciate it.
I remember we kept asking Helene, hey, put us on the Wizards covers for this, Like, she's like, yeah, sure. Like, continue at what you're doing. You're not there yet. And somehow we both thought we were, like, fucking stars at that moment,
Well, you know what? We were doing it, right? You brought the equipment. We spent a day at GenCon that we could have been gaming. I think we had we literally got press passes to go because this is what we wanted to do. And content's content.
Yeah, we did. We actually did. We did really, you're not wrong, but at the same time it was very amateurish, but at the same time, you're not wrong. Like we could have been spending that day kicking it, having fun. We're like, nah, we're going to do this. Let's just do it.
Yeah.
And had a good time. Honestly, like to me, it was fun.
It was great.
And almost everything starts off amateurish. You started off this entire podcast talking about how, like, our first 20 episodes.
Exactly. I was just going to say that.
This is great. Great way to bring it all back around. Well, everybody, thank you to all of our longtime listeners. Now, this is episode 400. I guess here's a 400 more. I mean, we have big plans. We just did a dual land giveaway. 10 revised duels. That is pretty hard to top, but we really appreciate
and we regret it. So like
we appreciate everybody listening. We appreciate everybody sharing the podcast, subscribing to YouTube at youtube.com.
You have no idea the number of times where I had to like wait and then contact somebody else because the person who won the dual land did not reply to an email.
Yeah.
It was the number of people who didn't want to win a dual land for free is insane.
Well, those are the clips we have for all of you. Thank you so much for listening. This was great. I love anytime we get to have Ryan Marcel back on, have the old band around. So guys, thanks as always for joining us. The walk down some very old memory lane there.
Indeed. So far back, every one of them. I'm impressed. Like, there's definitely clips that I haven't heard that I scoured through those. So, thank you very much.
Yeah, this was great. So, for people who want to, who may not have known you all before, but want to follow you on the internet, where can they find you? Marcel, why don't you go ahead? Where can people hit you up on the internet?
You just find me, Marcel MTG on Twitter. I may do contests sometime in the future. I may not. I keep saying that. We'll figure it out. I'll let you know when I do it. I will never give you a promise about doing something because it's going to be do it.
Ryan, what about you?
You can find me on Twitter as well at Cripple Command, CRYPPLE Command. Hopefully I don't have to change that, but I've had more than one person messaging me lately saying I should. So
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I changed my Twitter handle. I'll say that, but
but yours.
Everybody, thank you for listening. Now, we spent a lot of time on air tonight. There's gonna be a lot of after hours in here. So, Jason, if people wanted to hear after hours from this podcast, where might they do that?
Our Patreon.
Okay, our Patreon.
Perfect.
Well,
I guess. Thank you very much.
You know what? No, listen.
No.
Listen.
We don't do that Patreon shit on this old school podcast. We're done here. This is the end of the podcast.
Don't you Patreonize me. if it comes up organically, yeah, I'm going to do a Patreon pitch. That's kind of my thing on this podcast. And you know what? It's apparently smug and makes people for years not go to patreon.com/BSB and give us $1 a month or 20 or 25 cents an episode. But you know what? If you just like, hey, Jason, why don't you do the Patreon pitch right now? You know what? It's not going to happen like that. It's not going to happen inorganically. So,
Right,
you know,
I
you can
understand.
try to throw it to me and be like, oh, I'm just doing a good job driving the bus. But you know what? No, people don't want to hear that. They want to hear, like, if the conversation naturally flows into me saying, hey, go to patreon.com/BSB and give us $4 or $5 an episode, which is $20 a month. And you can have this handsome drinking glass that I got shit faced out of on this episode. Or, you know, maybe a water bottle is coming to you, or these playmats, or the tokens, or the spreadsheet where we put our picks of the week and our breakings bulk. Even this episode where we didn't even mention them on the podcast, but we put them in the spreadsheet. Yeah, you could have access to that. But look, if you're just going to be like, hey, Jason, why don't you do the Patreon pitch? No, I'm not going to do that for you, Corbin. I'm not a like dancing monkey that's just going to like do the Patreon pitch when you tell me.
However, I am. So everybody, remember to check out our sponsor, Channel Fireball. They have a great buy list promotion going on. If you are a member of CFB Pro, all you have to do is send your cards into them. They will pick through the box and give you money. You get a big buy list bonus right now. We've talked about how stores need to get those cards back in without paper events, and it is a great time to buy list your cards, or of course to buy cards or check out Magic content at our sponsor, channelfireball.com. So everybody, thank you so much for listening to episode 400. Let's hope there's another 400 in the future, and that sometime between now and episode 800, I learn how Magic cards work. Thanks for listening, everybody.